Yeah, talk to people, you know, do self-care, whatever that may be. Because while you have to devote an enormous amount of time to the PhD and to finishing it, it is not your entire life, right? You also need to sleep and you need to eat, and actually when you really get deep into it, you even forget to do those things, right? You know, like, so you gotta keep it together.
You gotta take care of your family too.
You have to take, yeah, you have other responsibilities. If you have a family, if you have children, if you're in a relationship, right? And hopefully these people, you know, are very understanding and they're like, okay, you know, for this period of time, I may not have 100% of your attention, right? But you have to maintain relationships. That is a part of your life too. So, you know, finding that balance. So, getting your work published, we can probably take a break here. I mean, we're doing very good on time. We can probably just do, I don't know, it's up to you actually. Would you like to keep going? So I don't think your lunch is here yet because I don't see Bonnie.
Let's work till
yeah,
lunch
let's
comes.
keep going.
Do you want to keep going?
Yeah,
Okay. So any questions, actually, before we move on to like part 2? Yeah. Any questions about, maybe take a minute and just think about, I feel like I just said so much information. I hope it's not overwhelming, but it is a boot camp. Maybe you have a question about your work specifically. What program are you in?
I'm in Global Urban Studies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What year?
I'm the first year. I'm in my second semester. Actually, I think I just finished my second semester.
Yeah, congratulations. 1 year of the PhD done.
I know.
That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I missed everybody else's name. Sorry I was late.
It's okay.
I haven't slept much this week, but you guys are in what programs? What are your names?
I'm a master's student in the economics department.
Oh, awesome.
Spa.
Spa.
Undergraduate.
Undergraduate.
I'm a future student in
Business.
Yeah, business.
Mhm.
Right.
Master's student in jazz history and research.
Oh, so cool.
That's diverse.
And you're from the Writing Center, it says here, right?
Yeah, I'm actually finishing my PhD in global affairs. I'm at the very, very, yeah, but I also teach English composition here.
You also do that?
Yes,
Congratulations.
101 and 102. I do, maybe in another life, I would have done a PhD in English. Yeah. Okay, so no questions, comments, thoughts? I teach these workshops, of course, they're much smaller during the semester, you know.
They're smaller than this?
Oh, well,
Shorter.
Oh, okay.
Shorter. And it's a good way to kind of like, you know, problem solve together. But I mean, if you're all doing okay, that's great. Okay, so let's move on to getting your work published. All right, there's a lot here. So some of you will try to publish when you are doing coursework, which is very ambitious and very impressive, but I have come across a couple students that are trying to do that. It's not really recommended because you gotta focus on just doing all your reading and finishing coursework and writing your proposal, but some people are doing it, and it's great for them. Other people will try to publish at the end. That's most common, right? So when you're nearing your 5th and 6th and 7th year, they will tell you you should try to think about publishing. And then other people will publish after. So they will defend the dissertation, and then they will take a chapter from the dissertation, rework it a bit, and they're gonna publish a chapter. These are all the possibilities. And you know, again, you think about what you want to do, what works for you, what your advisor may want. Your advisor may want you to do one of those things. So Is anybody here trying to publish? Are you trying to publish at the moment? You're trying to publish?
I haven't started any of the research, but
Yeah.
this summer we're doing that South Africa trip.
Okay,
And-
with the graduate school? Okay.
Yeah, exactly, with the graduate school.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons I want to come here is because I'm starting to think about how that research can be turned in the summer's research can be turned into a paper.
Yeah, okay, great. Are you trying to publish or not?
After the data collection, I think I was thinking about this.
After
The data collection.
the data collection?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that, because you have to start thinking about like what your findings are, if you're going to include that in the publication. So choosing a journal, choosing a place to publish. Now there are many journals in all of our fields, and they are ranked. And the ranking is sort of based on this thing called an impact factor, okay? And there are other methods of ranking. There's also like an H index and a few others. What is the impact factor? The impact factor it's a decimal, so it can be 1.2 or 6.7 or 3.5, whatever. It is the number of times, the average number of times an article from that journal has been cited within the past year.
I've seen,
Question.
Yeah.
When I think of publishing, as a musician sometimes I think of ASCAP, BMI, getting royalties. Money's coming in, you know? Got a book deal, you know, people are using my intellectual, citing my intellectual, or playing my intellectual property, you know,
Yeah.
creation.
Those are for books,
Yeah.
not for journal
Yeah.
articles. They don't pay you anything.
Apparently
Even YouTube will give you some money for
Yeah.
hits, like, yeah, here goes some money, so.
Oh, really? Does
Yeah.
YouTube do that? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why
Advertisers.
people make these shows or whatever they.
Yeah.
I didn't know they get paid for
You
it.
can get paid with YouTube.
I don't know if YouTube pays them, but sometimes.
Yeah, the advertisers that
Yes.
come on and they get paid. They get
Yeah,
paid.
they get paid
yeah.
good. They get paid.
I
Good.
Look at the
think
guy.
what you do
It's like a multimillionaire. Well, I forget his name.
Even these little Vine stars from Facebook and all that make
Yeah.
those little comedies,
Uh-huh.
they're getting paid.
oh, really?
Wow, I had no
They're getting
idea.
paid, living better
And
than
then they
me and
get
you.
paid to maybe Germany
Mhm.
or Denmark. I'm not sure what country. You do get paid every time you publish
In a journal?
in a journal.
Wow.
It's just a different system.
It's a different system.
Yeah, completely.
Of course, we don't have that system in this country, right?
Probably
Like,
fighting against it. Like,
Well, yeah.
no,
We
no.
don't have anything here, we don't
Yeah.
have free education.
Yeah.
We don't have
Nothing.
medicals,
Yeah.
we don't have anything.
Yeah, it's really a miracle that people survive.
Yeah,
It's
It
true.
is. It's nothing short of a miracle.
it's true.
It's nothing short of a miracle that you survive in this country. Yeah, so unfortunately, you do not get paid for publishing in a journal article here. But when you get a book deal, yeah. But your royalties aren't gonna be that much, right? Like, you're gonna get a royalty check, it's gonna be like $2.12 in the beginning. So the impact factor, so it's, it's like, let's say it's a scale from 1 to 10. The higher the number, the higher the impact factor, the harder it is the more prestigious the journal, right? So if a journal has an impact factor of 6.7, it's rather prestigious, right? You're getting up there. When you think about publishing, you should start with journals that have a lower impact factor so that you can get published, right? It is very, very difficult. It is very difficult, near impossible to get published for the first time in a journal with a high impact factor. Now, here's the ethical issue. When you send out something to be published, you are only allowed to send it to one journal at a time. You are not allowed, it is very unethical, it is highly unethical to send your work to more than one journal at the same time. So what does that mean for you? That means that you will send your work to a journal and then you will wait several months to get either a rejection or acceptance. If you get rejected, flat out rejected, then you can send it to another journal.
That sounds like straight music publishing, how they used to do it back in the days. Whereas
Yeah.
they didn't want, the artists were getting gypped to a degree, so what the artists started doing was,
Send it out to more than one.
they sent it out to more than one record company to push out. And they'd be slick about it and say, all right, I'll send one under one name, and I'll send another one under another name.
Mhm.
You know, and what the record companies were doing, sometimes they'll shelve you if they didn't, you know, they know what's going on. And
Yeah.
they'll just shelve your stuff, wouldn't publish it, like, yeah, we'll get back to you, and you basically lose sales. So you send it to somebody else, and oh, and all of a sudden it's a hit song over there, so it sounds a lot like what,
Yeah. Why is it unethical? The reason it's unethical is because the people who are academics and scholars in your field, the people who review your article are doing so for free. They don't get paid for it. That's why it's considered unethical to send it to multiple places at the same time, because people are doing free work. So, there are 3 responses you can get. You can get accepted, near impossible. You can get accepted contingent upon revisions. So you have to make revisions. And they will, the reviewers will send you feedback. You'll always get feedback, which is why it's so good to submit, right? So they'll tell you, you need to improve this section, you need to remove this section, you need to add to the, and then you resubmit it, and then if they like it, they'll publish it.
So this is after you've already had your supervisor, your reader 1, 2, and 3, and they've vetted you in the whole 9, and they said, go back and do this and that and that and that, and you've done that. Now you go to that journal, they say do it over again, or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, the journal, and we'll talk about that, but the journal, you know, has its own standard expectations, and also the content, what are they looking for? And, you know, we'll talk about how do you find a journal where, you know, your research fits what the journal publishes.
And those three options then, if you're accepted, there's one, you're accepted pending revisions.
Yeah,
First one was what again?
you accept it.
Just accepted.
It practically never happens.
What's the third one?
Rejected,
Oh.
completely rejected. Yeah,
Oh, why not?
yeah.
How long do they normally give you for correction?
To make revisions, it depends, sometimes maybe a month. You know, a month or more, probably a month to make revisions, and then you resubmit.
And you're in DGA, right?
Mhm.
How many articles do they suggest you should have around graduation?
They don't.
They don't.
Yeah, they don't, I mean, they don't, because it also depends on what you're trying to do after.
Yeah.
So especially with DGA, with the degree, because it's interdisciplinary and because the people that graduate with PhDs they don't necessarily stay in academia. They work for the government, they work for the United Nations, or they go an NGO, a think tank. You know, if you're going to leave academia, you may not need publications. If you're going to stay in academia, it also depends on where you're going to work. So there are universities that are very teacher-centered, like student-centered, right? Where they focus on teaching, not on research. So if you're going to teach in a place like that, that's very focused on student learning, you don't need to have many publications. But if you're going to work at an institution that's very heavily focused on research, they want publications. Rutgers is actually 50-50. So you have both. There's not as much pressure to publish here. Does that answer your question? Okay. So that is the impact factor. So start with journals that have a lower, 1 point something, 2 point something, 3 point something. When you start moving, it's getting harder now, right? And try to publish there. Okay, we'll go to the next one. So are you familiar, has anyone seen the impact factors journals and how they're ranked?
Pull one up, we'll see what's going
Has
on.
anyone seen, yeah, so let's.
Just copy that and
There's different ways they do it too,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah,
So, somewhere I've seen it where it says this article is cited so many times a month,
I
but
think
I
he
didn't
does
see
that.
the impact factor in that journal, but
yeah. So this is Sage Publishing. right? And they have, so we'll look here, Sage Journals in the Social Sciences edition. This is for 2015. So this enormous chart will come up, Excel spreadsheet rather. Okay, and it's sort of hard to see it, but, so here are the
I
journals.
see factors over here,
Yeah, and they have for a 2-year, and then they have for the 5-year. Right, so here's the 2-year impact factor ranking, and here's the 5-year. So if we look at, let's look at one of these.
Well, I'm looking at something that shows 1 point and such.
Yeah,
Okay, that though, and then I'm looking to
I see
the
some
right, I
that
see
says
like some
0
whole
points,
numbers all the way together. Could you go up to
I
the
see
very
some
top?
0
It
points.
says 2-year,
yeah, so I
oh,
believe-
IF rank, okay, the ranking, okay, like number 1 through 10 or 100,
Mhm.
whatever, okay, and that's the actual factor.
Right,
Okay, now I understand.
so I wanted to show, where is it?
Let me see, when you finish, let me see if I see, what's the name of that, ProQuest? Yeah, you see ProQuest down there.
Yeah, where is this? I mean, these are all of the main journals on here.
But these are the ones published by Sage, right?
Exactly.
So this would still be missing some.
Yep, absolutely. So Sage has decided, so here we go, perspectives on psychological science, right?
You only need
This
one.
Journal,
7, oh, damn.
7.6.
it's number 4.
So it's going to be very different. This is not where you start.
No.
You know, I mean, but, you know, if you want to try it, but it's,
Yeah, just get some feedback.
get the feet, well, that's why.
I got
They have
rejected
very
by
good
them.
editors.
Do they
Yeah.
have to give you
No.
feedback?
I think they do. But there's also like an ethical issue
Oh,
there,
there's
like,
another one, that's 9.
they know when you're doing that. They know when you've submitted just to get feedback, because the quality of your work is so different. So they're like, oh, this is a PhD student. This person is just trying to get feedback. And the community, the reviewer community in each field is small. It's not a big community. So even though you don't put your name, like, because they do it like anonymously, the review, like, they will be able to see if you submitted to more than one place at the same time, or if like you keep submitting things that are far below, like, they can see these trends. And if you're trying to stay in academia, think about your reputation.
They can see the trends, or they'll be talking about it amongst themselves?
Both.
How would they be able to see it?
So, you know, just the writing. The writing. They'll be able to say like, oh, the person that did this writing, this is the same person. I mean, I do it with my students' papers. Like, even if they were to, and this is just at like the undergrad level, if you were to remove the names, I can tell if a student wrote 2 papers. Because you see how they put the grammar together, the sentence structure, the voice, the content, the topic. I mean, presumably it's the same topic, right?
And then
So
how do
they'll
they
know it's
link
the
it to
same
you?
person. Hmm?
If it's anonymous, then how do they link it to you?
I don't think, well, it's anonymous, so I don't think that they can link it to you, but they'll be aware that this is the same researcher,
Do they know your profile? Do they know what school you come from?
most likely,
Mhm.
yeah.
Don't you have to put that in the application?
Yeah.
You know, your background, your pedigree?
Yeah,
Okay.
so they'll, you know, they can piece it together.
One of my professors, and I thought this was interesting, had a really I think noteworthy hit first a tip, and it was to go to different journals that you're interested in, and then see if they have upcoming special issues,
Mhm.
because normally it's easier to get into special
Okay.
issues. Yeah,
Yeah.
the idea being that not when it's just like, you know, broad political theory, then all the
Mhm.
political theories in the world can send something, but if it's political theory about, you know, African nationalism or something
Yeah,
like that, then.
It's more specific, yeah, and the pool is smaller, that's a great idea.
Yeah, she shared it
So-
with us, and I was like, thank you. And so one of the things I'm thinking about doing is seeing what special
Yeah.
issues come up.
Yeah, so look out for special, put yourself on the mailing list. Put yourself on the journal's mailing list. If you think that you would like to publish in a particular journal, put yourself on the mailing list, and they will send you updates. They will send you if there's gonna be a special issue, and so you can sort of keep abreast of what's happening.
Is this also a way to find out what's hot, what's popular, what's,
Yes, I think so.
With the journal?
no, you know, what's
The topics.
the topic of the academic, yeah, academia.
What do you mean?
For example, you were saying, when we're gonna try to find a dissertation proposal,
Mhm.
and we said, oh, we don't wanna talk about boring stuff, we wanna talk about the trend, what's happening, what's hot,
Right.
what's going on now.
Mhm.
Is this one of those places, or are these one of those places that we search?
In the journal, yeah, absolutely, yes, absolutely, in the journal. So
Yeah.
you look at, make a list of 5 journals,
Mhm.
and then, yeah, see what they're publishing on. So let's go to that slide right now. Any other questions about this?
No, but this is cool. I'm glad you showed it to me. I'm gonna pull it up.
Yeah, and so, look through it and, Sage, also. Mhm.
Sage has this, impact factor.
Mhm.
It's a specific, was this a specific page, so you could say, okay, this is the leading journal for publication? There was another page that you went to, I believe.
Yeah, so that's on so this
Okay.
is just Sage Publishing website, so
Right.
sagepub.com.
Right,
And they have something on, so Sage Journals and subscription info, they have impact factor and ranking results.
okay.
So they have this because they compile it. And then there's the link here,
Okay.
so you can see for 2015.
What's another major publisher that might have a similar list that goes on as long as this one? Like, I see a lot of the journals that I use on here.
Yeah.
But with that being said, who is,
Probably JSTOR.
Yeah, I see that they use JSTOR a lot,
JSTOR.
Spot.
but JSTOR isn't
Yeah.
a publisher, are they?
I don't, oh, that's a good question. That's more like a database.
Yeah, I think that's a database. I think ProQuest is a database too. I'm wondering who else
Right,
is a
ProQuest is-
publisher?
Um,
Or is this like kind of exhaustive?
That's a good question, and I actually don't have the answer to that. I would probably, we can do a Google search.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, who
Mhm.
are Sage's? Oh, it says on the website, over the last 5 years, Sage has seen a 70% increase in the number of titles in the SCI index, primarily due to strategic acquisitions.
Mhm.
So I guess they're trying to take, so I guess they're
They're
trying
trying to have a monopoly. But definitely these are not all the journals. You can also look through, I imagine, well, I don't know if the institution at Rutgers does this, because this work is like, you need a team of people, right? So you can check if the university has one in its own database.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think every
The reference library,
Mm-hmm.
every university have their own list of the journals.
Mhm.
Maybe at least for your area, they have A journal, B journal, C journal.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
have this list.
Yeah.
This library has quite a few journals
Yeah.
in there.
Rutgers has a
Wow, we're back.
fantastic database. It's really, the Rutgers spends a lot of money.
Better, has
To-
a $1 billion endowment.
It has a fantastic database. So, so you can sort of, look at these things, and it's good to know it because if you can only, since you can only send it to your article to one place at a time, you don't want to unknowingly send it to a journal that has like, a 7.5 impact factor. Because then you have to wait probably 6 to 8 months before you can get that article back out there if it's not accepted.
Oh, okay, that's a turnaround time?
Yeah, so it takes time, so if you want to publish an article before you finish your degree, you want to think about giving yourself time, maybe 1.5 years, so you can send it out twice, something like that.
The aspect, what's the rationale behind publishing an article before your, what's the whole purpose of that?
Well, there are many like research-heavy institutions that, so if you're going to stay in academia, they research and publish research brings up the reputation of the department and of the institution. So there are many departments that focus heavily on research and publication that want to see that you've published.
Okay.
Because then when they hire you and you become a part of the faculty, a part of the department, it increases it brings up the reputation
Okay.
of the department. So let's look at this handout. It's called 10 Tips for Getting Published. So a lot of what's on the slide is in here. So we'll go over some main things. So where should you start? The first place you should start is research the journal that you might be interested in. Maybe you've heard of it from a friend, maybe you're on the mailing list, maybe someone you know is interested. Research the journal, start with its webpage, okay? What is the philosophy of the journal? What do they publish about? So let's say it's like Journal of Urban Education, right? Or Journal of Consumer Behavior, something like that. That's broad. So you have to figure out, what sorts of like themes do they accept and where can your research fit? And it's very important to do this because if you submit an article and what you wrote about doesn't fit with what they publish, it's going to get rejected, right? So doing your research ahead of time will go a long way.
Are you saying that they are purporting to push a certain agenda? Like, we don't want to publish this type of research, we only want to publish this? Are you saying that they have a filter themselves?
Yeah, so some journals publish like just qualitative work. Other journals publish quantitative work. So if your study is qualitative, largely qualitative, you want to make sure that the journal is not largely quantitative. Because then it's not likely that they will accept your work. So these are the things you're looking at. So here, read some of the articles in the journal or Google the journal. Do the articles share a certain method? So does the journal tend to publish, is it 90% quantitative work? Do they favor comparative work? A lot of journals, if you do a single case study or you do quantitative analysis, about one region, they may not publish it. I mean, they won't. If it's a comparative journal, they want to see that you're doing comparative work. So you have to think about that. What is the tone of the article? What are the conventions? So, what sorts of, what's the terminology? How are the articles structured? What sorts of examples do the researchers use, the scholars? So all of these things, so you want to look at what you have written and you want to format it so that it fits in with what has been successfully published in the journal. You don't want to give something that's radically different, right? So you may have to make adjustments. So you may tweak what you have for one journal, and if it doesn't get accepted, then you may need to tweak it again for another journal. Make sure you conform to the length guidelines of the journal to which you are submitting. So journals are very specific about the length of essays, so for journal articles. For example, if you write an article that's 50 pages or 40 pages, and the journal publishes articles that are 8 to 10 pages, this is not a fit for you. Do not submit your 40-page article to a journal that publishes articles that are about 10 pages long, because they won't accept it, right? So think about that. And on the website, we'll have all of this. What is the word count? What is the citation style? Journals are so specific, many even tell you how many words can be in your title. So some journals, your title can only be 7 words long.
Okay.
Is that specific? That's a common thing. So if your title, so do yourself a favor, right? Pay attention to these details. Avoid the desk reject. That's what that means. So make sure you pay attention to the initial details so that you don't get rejected right away. So if they tell you your title should be 7 words, but your title is 15 words, make it 7. Because it also shows, what that shows is that you're not paying attention. Or either you read it and you're ignoring it. Either way, it reflects poorly on you, right?
Yeah.
In your journal article, whatever you write, you want to make sure that you are referencing the people that are experts in the field, the people that are popular in the field, the pioneers. So a lot of the times, the journals will send your article to the experts in the field, and they will review the work. So they will want to see that their names are being referenced. All right, so I'll give you an example. So for qualitative work, one of the big names is like Robert Ian, right? So Robert Ian has written extensively about case study and qualitative work. So in your methodology section, we want his name to be in there. And there are many. But you want to make sure that the people who are popular in the field, you're referencing these people. They should be in your bibliography as well. So make sure you acknowledge both recent and seminal scholarly work on the topic you are writing about. Editors will normally send your article out to external readers who also have written on your subject. Right, so you all have some idea of who are the names that you keep coming across, right? So make sure you're referencing these people. Make your scholarly intervention explicit. So be explicit about how what you're saying is different from what other scholars have been saying. So don't assume that it's implied. You need to explicitly state it. This is how my work is different from, it's either an expansion of previous work, it's a new perspective entirely, etc.
Promote yourself.
Yeah. It's hard to do. Be respectful toward the views you disagree with. This enables you to make your own claim more sophisticated, and it also makes strategic sense. Editors like to send articles to the scholars they're disagreeing with. So, we do this in the literature review, and just throughout the thesis. If you are disagreeing with what a scholar has said, you don't say, oh, that person is completely wrong. That person is completely uninformed. They don't know what they're talking about. I don't even know how they got a PhD, right? You don't say stuff like that. It actually weakens your point of view.
Yeah.
So you have to be very diplomatic, very, very strategic. You do it with the utmost tact. You say, while this person has, this person's research has many strengths, such as A, B, and C, this is where, this area can use more development. So you say it respectfully.
You're making me think about rephrasing something I said in.
How did you word it?
I can't remember exactly, but there was a psychologist that analyzed Coltrane and said that he was, what did she say? Excessive. He practiced excessively, and I was saying that he obviously didn't understand how Coltrane's a spiritual thing. He was just thinking that why would somebody practice that much?
Yeah. Yeah. So, so you kind of tweak it where you say this, the psychologist, this is the psychologist. So you summarize the psychologist's point of view. So the psychologist makes this assertion, however, what the psychologist disregards is, etc.
Right.
Or what the psychologist, neglects to discuss or is this issue.
I may have said it all right, but I want to reread it just to make sure.
it doesn't come off as like like you're attacking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want your language, because academic language, do it with the utmost tact.
Bad scholar, bad scholar.
Yeah. Okay, so even if your article gets rejected, take the comments you receive seriously. All right, and don't be disheartened. It is very difficult to have your article published the first time and the second time. That's just the truth, right? And you'll be disappointed, but then you'll understand, right? It's not easy to do it. It's not impossible, but it's not easy. So don't give up, take the feedback seriously. Sometimes you may disagree with the feedback that the reviewer gave you, right? So maybe a reviewer from the journal told you that they want you to change something, but you don't believe that you should change it, because maybe it's like a fundamental part of your research. So how do you address that?
Mm-hmm.
When they told you to change it, but you don't want to, right? You don't think it's necessary, or you think it can hurt your research. So you have to be very strategic in how you respond to that. And you have to explain why you're not making that change. Because they told you to. And they're gonna remember that they told you to, because they gave it to you in writing. So if you choose to not make a revision, you got to explain that choice.
And what's the chances of publishing you then?
You can make an argument for yourself, and it depends on the review. Like, reviewers are people. So you can get someone that is understanding, or you can get someone that's like an intellectual snob, right? And you never know who you're gonna get. So you may get someone who, if you tell them that you don't think you want to make this revision, they'll take it very, very personally. I mean, this comes down to a matter of people's personality. And you just can't predict or control what you're going to get. Any questions about that? So I found these tips very helpful, and it's more detailed. Also think about, not just what it is you're saying, how it fits in with the journal's philosophy and, with other sort of characteristics of the journal. That's really, I would say that's more than half the work, is finding a good fit. And then once you've found a good fit, you can then move forward with your actual article.
I guess if you know of anything, I think my question would be, can you share with us an example of someone who went through this process, and what steps happened and how it all resulted?
Yeah, so I have, a colleague that submitted to a journal, and it's, it was a good fit.
Mm-hmm. Did they pick a low impact score?
It was probably around like a 4 point something, but he also has done other work, right? So he already had that. So do you mean someone who's starting for the first time?
No, anyone, any story. Yeah.
Right, and the journal liked it, but they wanted him to make revisions. So he got a letter, and there was something like 5 points, 5 revisions, and some are easier to make, some are more surface level things, like language or something, and others have to do with how he's presenting a particular idea. And he made those revisions, and he resubmitted it, and they published it.
They published it?
Yeah.
And how long did it take start to finish?
I think it took him maybe 5 months to get feedback.
Wow.
Yeah, because remember, these are people that are also working, right? The reviewers are not just reviewing. They're scholars and academics, so they could be teaching, they could be doing their own research, they could be away on sabbath. So you got to give yourself time. And it was a rather smooth process. And then I knew someone else who didn't want to make one of the changes. And he, you know, responded and had to really explain why he thought that making that change would hurt his argument.
And what did
Yeah.
those people reply?
I think they accepted it. They accepted it, but you have to be, you know, do it with the utmost tact, and you have to have some legitimate reasons.
And do they, with those folks, did they send them back the feedback electronically or like hard copy?
Electronically.
Electronically.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep.
So like track changes and stuff.
I think they send you a letter.
A letter.
A letter, and they,
With what they want you to change.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
you could track changes. You know,
Um,
you know, you can see the person's name, so they probably
Yeah.
wouldn't want to do that.
yeah, it's a letter. You get like a formal letter.
A formal letter.
Yep.
Interesting.
It's a very formal process.
Very interesting. Good to
Mhm.
know. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, and it's great that you're thinking about this already. You know, but it's overwhelming, right?
Yeah. Well, it's overwhelming, but I think during the summer, because I'm not doing anything else,
Okay.
it's a better time.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do it during the semester.
During coursework,
It's impossible.
it's impossible.
One thing has to give.
Yeah, it's impossible. Because this is like kind of a job in itself, you know, researching the journals, seeing the requirements, and the requirements are very, has anyone ever looked at a journal? The requirements, have you looked at any?
Yes.
No? You've looked at it, so you see, we can look at one. It's, and then we'll have lunch, but it's, there, let's see, there's a journal.
Actually, I think it would be good to develop your term paper into a formal
Yeah,
paper.
that's another thing they tell us to do.
What?
We did one of those in one of my classes. I'm just not happy enough with that one, maybe next year. But yeah, they do say that, like try to, any research that you're doing for a class, try
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, they always tell you that. Although, yeah, I did one project this semester, and it has nothing to do with my thesis. And they asked me to do a panel at IJS on it.
that's so interesting. Yeah,
Yesterday.
you never
they asked
know
me.
who's gonna wanna use your research. It's why it's really important.
20 years from now, someone digs it up and like, oh my God, this is linchpin, I'll save everything. Oh. I call you up like, hello, sir. You're like, huh?
Oh, unfortunately, he passed away. No, you're joking, no. You waited 20 years to call him.
I'm famous posthumous.
That posthumous.
Post.
What is a
From the
journal
world.
in your field? Journal of,
Like AMJ,
Oh, yeah.
of what?
Journal of Academic, no, it's
Business
American,
Yeah.
it's American Management Review or American Management Journal. Those are very nice.
Review
Rutgers University.
or journal?
Oh, yeah. Here.
This one?
Yes, academic, sorry.
Peace, okay.
That's okay. Okay, now let's find out the manuscript. Have you been here before? Oh, here, subscribe.
I didn't see the details of the request of this journal because it's the top journal.
It's a top journal. Mm.
Let's go to the ranking.
Like something lower.
Oh, it's number one of
Yeah.
120 journals in the category of business.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go to the ranking, the TR ranking or the factor ranking.
I'm trying to find, well, you know what, I'll look for it during the break, and then, yeah, that makes more sense. Because I didn't get journals and publications.
I wonder who publishes this.
These are really like very distinguished, accomplished people in the field. But I'll look through during the break, and so we can look at, so when you want to submit a manuscript, there is like an entire page of instruction just to apply, just to submit. So you have to probably print it or like read it with a highlighter and make sure that what you have fits. So is my title 7 words? You know, is it this and you gotta go through it really closely. But I'll find one and we'll look at it together.
And when you go to the journal's webpage, how do you find about submission? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see anything.
So that's what
I
I
was
just
looking at one, I
did.
don't.
You type in, after you type in the name of the journal, type in manuscript submission.
Oh, okay.
Because they all have that part. Oh, here we go, submitting a manuscript. This is for the journal she mentioned. So you see, you have to, so any article or dialogue submission to AMR should be prepared according to the AMR style guide for authors. So this one has even a specific, and here's the style guide.
Every part, yes.
I mean, this thing is 4 pages long. That's a lot. So submission requirements, agree that the manuscript is not under review for publication elsewhere and will not be submitted to another publication entity during the review period at AMR.
Lunch is ready, sorry to
Okay,
interrupt.
no,
Whenever you're
we'll
ready.
take a break, yeah, thank you. So we can look at, we can actually, if you want, we can pull up your different journals and have a look. Would you like lunch? Lunch is here.
We don't.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
supposed to eat?
I'm glad you said that.
Totally developed.